Hi, I'm Donna Davis here with George Franco, and we're going to talk about George's favorite things today here on Metro Atlanta Faves. We want to welcome you to the show. We want you to take part. Please, talk about your favorite things, and thanks for being here today.
Well, thank you. It's such an honor. I'm so happy to be here. I was telling you that I'm used to seeing the people on the other side. I'm usually the one asking questions, so it's different to be on this side.
So speaking of that, we'll go into George's background and television news a little later. First, we're going to talk about his favorite things, but it's been an exciting transition, right? From working in the news, and now you've got your hand in a lot of different things.
Lots of different things. I miss the news. I won't lie. I miss the news. I miss talking to people on the news. I miss communicating with the folks on Fox 5 News. But it was time because I'm a professional benefit auctioneer, 25, 35, 45, that kind of thing. But I'm raising funds for nonprofit schools and foundations. So it came to me that I thought, you know what? In life, when we're dead and gone, when our footprints are in the sand, those footprints should say something about what we left behind. So I wanted to go out that way and raise funds and help folks who are struggling with so many different issues. So that's why I went that route.
Yeah, and it's so needed right now, especially since the pandemic. The nonprofits have been struggling, and I know you know a lot about that. So Metro Atlanta Faves is there for just people to talk about their favorite things, right? And we wanted to hear about George's favorite things. So let's start off with just talking about some restaurants and everything that you like. And what part of town are you in?
I live in Granite County.
Okay.
So nice little drive over here today.
I know. It's all.
Cobb County.
So let's talk about your favorite special occasion.
Okay.
Where do you like to go when it's a really special occasion?
I would have to say number one on that list would be Frankie's the Steakhouse, because Frankie's the Steakhouse has superb service, superb food. It goes back to in the old days of Hollywood. The Brown Derby would be one thing that comes to mind. The reason I like that, my dad told me that when he was very young, he worked at the Brown Derby. So, that's where Clark Gable and the Hollywood celebs and the elite would go. So Frankie's the Steakhouse has great food, and they take such good care of you. And during this COVID, I was there a couple of weeks ago, they make sure everybody's safe, but yet they keep this ambiance alive that's available to everybody that goes to Frankie's the Steakhouse. And it's in the Gwinnett Chamber of Commerce building. The 1818 Club is right next door. I'm a member of Gwinnett Chamber of Commerce, 1818. So that's how I ended up going to Frankie's the Steakhouse. A lot of people know that. Maureen, talking to you.
Yeah, and so also, are they pretty good as far as gluten-free? I know your wife is gluten-free. Do they take care of you in that way?
We talked about gluten-free at Frankie's the Steakhouse, but I'm not going to speak for that restaurant. I will speak for others that I feel are safe, and I'm a big advocate of gluten-free. My wife has celiac, which is a tolerance or lack thereof to gluten, because some people say they like to have gluten-free food, but that means it's gluten-free food, and that doesn't necessarily mean that for them it's a health issue. For any of you who are celiac, you know what I'm talking about. It's a health issue. It's an autoimmune disease. And can you imagine when you're eating food, and if you eat the wrong food, the body attacks itself and hurts itself? And what doesn't have gluten?
Right.
It's in everything. That's a wheat, it's a barley. They use gluten, believe it or not, in makeup to bond things together. It's a bonding agent. So gluten is in a lot of things. And one of the places we do like to go to is Maggianos. Maggianos Perimeter does gluten-free. And let me take it like this. We went to a restaurant a few years back, and I asked the manager, I said, hey, do you know what celiac is? He goes, is that the baby formula? I'm like, no, dude. No, dude.
Yeah.
That's Similac.
Yeah.
Celiac is a serious disease. Maggianos knows how to do it, because when we first went there, we raised that issue, and the chef came out and walked us through the whole process of saying this is why it's safe. When it comes to celiac, you need to prepare it separately. It needs to have its own environment so that it doesn't cross-contaminate the food. If somebody says it's gluten-free, but they're making some kind of crust or dough or whatever, and right next to it, they're making the gluten-free. Well, it's being cross-contaminated.
Yeah.
And Maggiano's was very good about showing us how it was safe and why it was safe, and we still trust them to this day.
Good. So let's go back to Frankie's, and I know we've got some pictures of some of the awesome food at Frankie's. And tell me about some of the things that you like to get when you're there.
Well, they have an awesome steak. I mean, I have yet to go to the tomahawk chop. That's a great big old, I think it's a 48-ounce monster. I had those are amazing. That's good for 3 days, and they don't hold back on the portions, by the way. But also there's the lamb chop popsicles. It's an appetizer, but these are incredible. 3 lamb chop popsicles. They call them popsicles because they're bite-sized, but that in itself is a meal. They have great selection of wines, great selection of spirits. So everything about Frankie's, the steakhouse, is top-notch. And dare say that Frankie's, the steakhouse, is one of the premier steak homes, steakhouses in Metro Atlanta, for sure, in Gwinnett County. So kudos, Frankie's, the steakhouse.
And also, tell me about some of the things that people should know if they go there.
As far as, I think what they're going to be, I think what will please them, that's what I'm trying to say, is that the service, there is enough maitre d's and servers and people for everybody. So if you come in with a big crowd, that you're going to make sure that everybody gets well serviced, from that bringing that specific drink to the way the steak is done, to something in the salad, to making a specific order, to everything that is about your table. It's so well presented. I love when food is an art. And it's an art there, and
you could tell.
That's what's a beautiful thing,
right.
Is that when you have these culinary artists and they know how to paint your palate with culinary fusions, and that's what I like about Frankie's. They do have this artistic approach.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can definitely see that in every dish. So, but things that people should know as far as things they may not like, right? It's a little pricey, right?
Well, what
But
good steakhouse
right.
isn't pricey? I liken this to a steakhouse that I went to in Addison, Texas, which is kind of the Buckhead of Dallas, if I may be so bold. I don't know if that's the right analogy, but Addison and Dallas have some great steakhouses, and I went to one with an Auctioneer's convention, and I was, oh my God, this is an amazing steak. And when I went to Frankie's, the steakhouse, I went, okay, oh my God, this is an amazing steak. So if I can make a comparison, I think, at least to me, I made a comparison between Frankie's, the Steakhouse, Gwinnett County, Georgia, to this amazing steakhouse in Addison, which is beef country, Dallas, Texas. And I'm a Texan, so.
Oh, are you?
Yes, I am. I am by birth. I'm a Texan.
So tell me a little bit about your favorite lunch place. Is it the Korean restaurant?
Yes, it is this place called the Korean restaurant. And so let me get back into my brain here, because it's all the Korean barbecue, all that Korean barbecue. It's on Swanee, Lawrenceville Road. And I took my buddy there, Kirby Oliveras. Kirby, I hope you're watching. They have this one price for all you can eat kind of thing. And it felt safe, because if you know Korean barbecue, they cook it at your table. And I've been to a few Korean barbecues, and I'm like, I don't want to cook anything. Well, they cook it for you. I mean, I'm like, nah, I don't want to cook anything. So they cook it for you, and you're talking about braised pork bellies and shrimp, and my favorite by far, the octopus, is to die for. And so there's this kind of like this never-ending menu of variety that keeps coming your way, that they make at your table, and they give you first-class service, and it's just so good. To me, this restaurant falls into that category of, it is not only tasty, but it has variety. And if you want everything under the sun, as far as vegetable and beef and pork and fish and crustacean, it's all there. So they kind of blend it all together, and yet it has this kind of fusion element going. So while they taste separate and distinct of each other, whatever they've done, they've kind of merged it so that it all kind of melts in your mouth flavor. Does that make sense? Because
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? Sometimes you'll have some food and you're like, oh, that's good. Well, that didn't work. When you've got different contrasting flavors, the way they fuse this, they've brought all these flavors together so well. So that's why I
Sounds
like
like
that
it.
restaurant.
And then you also like Canton House, correct?
Oh my gosh, yeah, the Canton House on Buford Highway. That's a Fox 5 playback. I mean, Gustavo Valdez, I think he's still on CNN. Gustavo and I, when he was a cameraman, and some of the folks, we'd always, we got a break. Oh, look, we got a little bit of time between stories. And, oh, okay, it's lunch. Let's go to the Canton House because they have this dim sum. And they just keep bringing it out and bringing it out and bringing it out. And I say, I'll try that, and I'll try that, and I'll try that, and I'll try that. I think I see a pattern here because I like this variety of fusion in food that blends all these different flavors and that become one big flavor sauce of goodness.
Yeah.
And that's what that's what I think great restaurants do. They take it to another level that allow you to enjoy the food and also just take you to a different place based on maybe the culture or the ethnicity or the location. And Buford Highway, oh my God, so many great restaurants. That's just one of them.
That's a great place.
That's just one of them.
And then I know that you really like the 5-Spot Cafe. Tell me about the 5-Spot Cafe and Brewery.
Well, the 5-Spot Cafe
That's
is...
your breakfast,
yeah,
right?
that's kind of my breakfast.
choice.
That's in...
It's locally owned,
It's
right?
in Granite County off of 316, not too far from Briscoe Field. And when you asked me about this place, I thought, well, what stands out to me? What stands out to me is that they source the food. They individually create every dish. They pay attention to you. They are a one-off, as far as I know. I don't think there's any other 5 spots. Could be wrong. But I like that it's a family-owned restaurant, and that, to me, that is the great American dream, in my opinion. It's nice to see family-owned locations that are taken care of, that are massaged, that are well provided for, and that they have this love of the food and the people. And that's kind of what I got from that, is that they take care of their food and they take care of their clients, and it's their baby. So they take care of their baby. Nothing wrong with bigger corporate restaurants, but to me, I like small town Americana
Oh,
still.
I absolutely love to
Always.
support those
And
smaller restaurants. And I had the pleasure of talking to the owner.
Uh-huh.
He told me that he and his wife are there every
day.
single day other than Christmas.
Yeah.
It's the only time they take off. So
Yeah.
they love it. And, it's not surprising. Like, I may drive all the way out to Granite to try this place. And I love that. It's most of the time when I think of like a little
Right.
cafe and diner for breakfast, I don't think about serving wine. And it's a brewery.
It may be too early at 10 o'clock in the morning, but I'll have to go back and see.
Yeah.
No, it's a brewery as well. And that's what I mean. They're dedicated to that restaurant, and they're dedicated to the business. And to me, that kind of dedication pays off ultimately, because your customers, they realize that.
Yeah.
And there is a lot to that being an entrepreneur, but a solopreneur, if you will. And that's a tough business, let's face it. How many of these restaurants are gone now and won't come back because of COVID? And this is one of these kind of restaurants that struggled through it. And I went there when it was COVID, and I said, oh, just give me something at the window, and I just picked it up to go.
Yeah.
And I like that kind of place because I need a place sometimes when I'm contemplating and I'm going through my business plan and what am I going to do with this nonprofit and how are we going to raise money for this and what are we going to do with that. I'd like to go to a place and just sit down and enjoy.
Yeah,
and that's that kind of
absolutely.
place. That's
Good.
that kind of
Yeah,
place.
I could just tell when the owner answers the phone. He took the time to talk to me, and
he's
told
like,
me
"George,
all
who?"
about. No, not at all. Have you had the French toast? They've got the picture of the French
They
toast
got the
on
Hawaiian
the.
French toast, which I like, and also they have these great ciabatta breads with a meatloaf, which I really like for lunch. So yeah, I have had the French toast.
Anything you'd recommend that people just, if they go there, they've got to try it?
I think it's the ciabatta meatloaf. That's just
Yeah.
me, because they make this bread and then this meatloaf. And the meatloaf has this freshness, flair to it that doesn't taste like something that came out of a frozen section in your grocery store. It tastes,
Right.
which it is, freshly made and one of a kind. And I think there are recipes, no doubt, to everything that is made. But I've not been to the back of the kitchen, but the impression I get from the cooking there is that this is a chef who understands and quickly gets the menu and puts it together and creates on the fly, versus, if I'm cooking, it's a little of that, a little of this,
Yeah.
trying to put it together. And, so, yeah, there's a real culinary creativeness is, I guess, a good way of phrasing that.
Yeah.
To that
Well,
place.
it looks really, really good. And I love, like you mentioned, I love the whole family-owned thing. I think that's what's so important.
And, I have to say, whether it is the Five Spot or any other, to the folks watching, please, we know, and it's been said, that COVID has hurt folks. The businesses have been hurt the hardest are these kinds of businesses, the hospitality industry. So if you know of a local family-owned restaurant, and if you know that they're struggling, give them a break. We would reach out when we're raising funds for these nonprofits, something else, but we would send food with these watch parties, and we'd use local folks to send that food.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's important.
Yeah, and you also like another locally owned lunch place, Tycoon Sushi, right?
Oh my God, that if I had a nickel for every lunch I had there, I'd probably be getting a lot of money. But I would always go to the Tycoon Sushi, which is on Briarcliff, before Fox 5 News, because I'd always go to work for the 10 o'clock news at 2 o'clock. So I'd always meet potential clients or friends or whatever at that place. They always have great sushi. They always have a great assortment of food. They always have very fresh food. They're always so sweet, and they're always there with a hello. So the food isn't just good, it's the people too. And
Yeah.
after a while, you're like, hey, what's going on? That was nice that I got to know them a little bit. So
Yeah.
it's near Fox 5. It's on Briarcliff, right by the Kroger's there.
Okay.
Excuse me.
You might want to grab some water.
I'm okay.
So, and then you talked a little bit about Maggianos, that you guys go there as a great place to have dinner and
Yeah.
make sure that you're not going to get anything that bothers your gluten intolerance, right?
Me, I can eat anything.
Yeah.
And my dear wife, Debbie Yellowfeather Franco Bloom Franco, she does have celiac, and we found out, I don't know, but 7 years ago now.
Yeah.
Oh, what a change that was for everybody, because you have to get rid of all the pasta, all the bread, and I'm trying to get rid of carbs anyway, so that helped. And that for us, because she has celiac, that means fresh food all the time, and not carbs, and all kinds of things that have been taken out of the diet because of gluten, which is fine for me.
Yeah.
But when you go to a restaurant like Maggianos and they espouse gluten-free, then the question for folks who have celiac is it safe?
Yeah.
And to me, that says, show me that it is safe. And by safe, I mean that they've got one section for gluten-free, another section for traditional, and you have to have them completely separated. And the food should be prepared separate of the standard fare, if you will, because if you've got celiac and you've got gluten and food is contaminated, it makes the person very sick. So if you can show, hint, hint, hint to other restaurants out there who say they're gluten-free, if you can show that you are truly gluten-free and you separate the ingredients so that you have no cross-contamination, then there's a safety factor that comes along with that. And with that safety factor come more customers. And of course, with more customers comes more revenue. So it just makes sense economically speaking. I wish I had
Yeah, a lot of people have that now.
Oh, yeah. And I wish I had that kind of figure in my head about how much is related to gluten-free products. But it is a major industry now, which we obviously pay attention to.
Absolutely. And another great gluten-free, we have to mention this because everybody loves a bakery, is Sally's.
Sally's Gluten-Free Bakery. They're on Briarcliff again. And, how did I discover these places? My wife's birthday was coming up or something, and I said, Sally's gluten-free. Oh, I was literally driving down the road, and I said, I'm a little early to work. So I did just a quick grab the steering wheel and get into gluten-free. Sally's. And Sally's makes everything gluten-free. And the taste really does live up to the par here of gluten-free. They make an amazing chocolate chip cookie, and they make some amazing
and we've got we've got some great pictures.
Yeah.
I'd love to see if we can go to some of those pictures, and if you see something that, you've tried, these breads. How difficult must it be to make gluten-free bread?
Well, it is, and it isn't necessarily difficult because over the years, my wife and I have experimented with, oh, that's gluten-free, like, oh, that's good, or like, oh, next. But they figured out how to do it, and they figured out how to make this completely gluten-free, which is more vegetarian, more coconut. I'm not even going to attempt to describe what the ingredients are, but they do make it gluten-free, which means no gluten, which is wheat or barley. I think oats is also in that category. But they also present a wonderful treat, whether it's cupcakes or cakes or pizza, and it's safe. Once again, it's all about the safety because so you're an athlete and you work out and you want to reduce gluten. Well, that's wonderful. But what that has done to the gluten-free industry is it's kind of blurred the lines of what is gluten-free. And if you have a blurry line of what is gluten-free because people are eating it because it's popular, then the safety factor kind of goes out the window. And that's not good for the yellow feathers, my wife's of the world, or people who have gluten intolerance, because that hurts them. And if they go to a place and they're told it's gluten-free and then suddenly it's not, which happened, by the way, and we were told it's gluten-free, and it wasn't. And Debbie's like, oh, I'm feeling terrible. Then it's not a good thing. Sally's is very much gluten-free, and I know there's several other restaurants and bakeries, but I think Sally's kind of lives up to what the optimal gluten-free bakery should be. It's safe, it's tasty, and it's always available. So we'll always keep being patrons of Sally's.
Now, we saw a lot of sweet things on there, but they actually have pizza too, right?
Yeah. It's a bakery, but they have pizza and other items. But yeah, the bakery part does well with kind of the pizza part. But once again, the overall umbrella of safety, it's gluten-free. And I will say this, if anybody knows somebody who's wondering about gluten-free, do I have that intolerance, then, you should have it checked. For the longest time. I thought, I think I must be making my wife sick or something, because every time we're together, my stomach hurts. I'm like, is it me? And it was gluten. I said, okay.
Well, one of my best friends, she had it, and they couldn't diagnose it, and she was losing so much weight that it literally was, by the time that they got it diagnosed, she was probably within 15 pounds of, she was worried she was going to die.
Yeah.
She was like, what is happening to me? And miserable. So
Debbie was sick. She was sick, and we didn't know what it was. And she went to various doctors and dietitians, and then one doctor said, you know what, let's do a blood test. There is a blood test for gluten-free. There is a specific test that they can do, and they found that she has celiac, and after that, everything changed. Yeah. But I have to say, if you have celiac, you're probably eating the best food that you're going to eat, because it's not full of carbs. It's not, so that's a lot of sugar, and all that sugar doesn't help the body anyway. Right. And you have a lot of fresh fruit, a lot of fresh vegetables. So we have, and fresh fish. Yeah. So it's always fresh, and it's always good, and we'd like to go organic too.
Yeah, well, good.
Yeah, it's all good.
So it can be a little healthier while you're at it. So we also talked to George about some of his favorite things to do in Atlanta, and one of them is Smith Gilbert Gardens, right?
Oh, I love the gardens, yes. And Parsons, I hope you see this, and the whole team at Smith Gilbert Gardens. Smith Gilbert Gardens, there you go. It's a wonderful place. They're one of my clients with my nonprofits, and I help them raise funds because it's this incredible partnership between the private gardens and then the city of Kennesaw. It's a public-private partnership, and it works extraordinarily well. And they've got a beautiful gardens, and they have this amazing bonsai selection, bonsai tree exhibit, as well as a buff butterfly house that they have. and great sculptures and koi pond and just so many things about Smith Gilbert Gardens that take you to a different place. If you want to find the zen of the day, go to Smith Gilbert Gardens because, it's always a good thing. There you go. You've got the art blooms that are going on. Yeah,
right.
they always have
lots of events that are going on. They have their annual events, programs, event calendars. So you can go right here on the website and see the event calendar. And then we've got exhibits that are going on. And like you mentioned, the bonsai exhibit. I loved the butterfly pictures. I thought those were
they're so beautiful.
Pretty.
And we'll see where they go with this, but I know that Smith Gilbert Gardens also works with local horticulturalists, and at one point they, I hope I get all the details right, but I do know that they are working on grafting, if you will, species of orchids, and we're trying to see if there's going to be an orchid specific to the Smith Gilbert Gardens, which is really cool because I've always fascinated by when nature and man tinker together and we all win. That's what I love about this. There's the bonsais. Some of these things are like 170 years old. It's amazing. These trees, and then the butterfly gardens. If you have a family, you have a date, yourself, it's a great place, and it's such a wonderful sense of center that I get there. Just calm.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, it's
I love
beautiful.
it when you find a calm and this inner peace and this kind of beauty, and it exudes from something that you can take in, and it feels like when you take something like that in, what are you emanating out? And that's beautiful too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. One more thing that George's going to talk about that he really likes, is his favorite, is when it comes to home remodeling, Metro Granite and Marble, right?
You did. That's right. Dave Timma. Dave. Yes. So, we've got, some properties. We do rentals and blah, blah, blah. So I know a little bit of real estate. I'm also on the Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Georgia Properties Auctioneer team. So if you need a house and you need to have something liquidated, we're there for you. So I went into Metro Granite and Marble, and I see this guy with, I don't know, he looks like he's a veteran. And it just reminded me of Michelangelo working away on this marble. And he didn't see us. That's the best part. Because we're supposed to meet the owner there, and he's going to show us about these countertops. And by the way, they've done 3 of our houses, 3 countertops, and they do amazing work. So I wholeheartedly give them my endorsement. But I forget his name, but he's the other partner, and he is working away, and he is massaging and cutting and crafting and creating this piece of marble or granite, like something like this. And it's got a wet sander, and he's cutting it. And just the way he was doing it, he just made it look like he was shaving butter, not this hard material. And he had such a fine touch. And I watched him for 10 minutes, just mesmerized with his artistry in the way he handled this material. And I thought, well, there's the guy. There's no doubt about it. And I read that right. When I see an artisan at whatever level, then I think that takes it to a different level of just business, because there's lots of folks out there and lots of great companies, but they're not all artisans. And this company, to me, had this artisan touch. And they leave, when they're done with the job, it feels that way too. Our house our main house where we live, they did our kitchen, and they did a wonderful job, as well as 2 of our rentals. And
it's very creative, their work. I like it.
Yeah, it's real nice. Really good job.
So now let's talk about you for a little bit. You've talked about all your favorite things.
I'm so used to being the other one asking the questions.
So now that how long did you work at Fox 5?
15 plus years.
Wow.
Yeah, we came here in 2004. Christmas Eve, it felt like Mary and Joseph at it, because we went to a hotel, and we'd been traveling for 7 days from California, and Debbie had her cats, and I had a cat at the time. And then we went to the place, and the guy says, "No, we don't take pets here." I'm like, "Dude, it's Christmas Eve." He goes, "Sorry, no.
Really? What'd you do?
Hello, Lily. Lily is, and I won't say her last name because she's such a sweetheart, but Lily is the executive assistant at Fox 5 News, still there today. Hope
And
to
she
see you,
helped
Lily.
you?
Lily, we love you. We miss you. Yes, she helped me. She said, oh, don't worry about it, George. I'll take care of you. And she called the Marriott. They brought us in, and they took care of us. And Lily, from day one, has been just a sweetheart to me. She is the assistant to the news director. So Lily's kind of the brains behind all the brawn at Fox 5. She takes care of a lot of details. So Lily has always been good to us, and we still remember that time when we called her on Christmas Eve. Lily, I don't know what to do. They won't let us in with the cats.
So had you worked all your career in news?
Oh, my God, yes. So I won't show my age, but you can guess it. But it was in the 80s. So Yakima, Albuquerque, San Jose, San Antonio, Bakersfield, Orange County News Channel, KFWB News 98. You give us 22 minutes, we'll give you the world. That was at the time it was owned by Westinghouse, the all-news radio station in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So I lived in North Hollywood, literally, the Hollywood, for about close to about a year. Because I thought, TV gig went away. I need another TV gig. Oh, I like the radio. I've always loved radio. I started in college radio. And so KFWB let me work for them for a bit. It was such an honor because KFWB, I hope I get this right, Frank Warner Brothers. So the thing about the old KFWB, which is now gone, and if you know Hollywood, there's the Capitol Records building, which is that very iconic Capitol Records on Hollywood Boulevard. Here's Capitol Records, here's KFWB. And I would look up and there's Capitol Records.
Wow.
And when you're walking to the studio, there was original photographs of Jack Benny, Milton Berle, all the old-time Hollywood radio stars that would do their shows at KFWB. And I would literally still get the flutters from walking through that hallway and seeing all those true Hollywood icons at KFWB. Oh, my God, yeah. So I love that about that radio station. But, so I got a call. I was fishing. I just caught a big fish. I love to fish. My agent, Greg Willinger in New York City, George, what are you doing? Oh, Greg, I got a fish. Oh, my God. And I was literally on the boat. I just caught it. And then he said, oh, you got a bigger fish. Wagga in Atlanta wants to hire you. I said, Atlanta, Georgia? I'm in Sacramento, California.
Yeah?
Sacramento, Atlanta, like 3,000 miles,
Wow,
whatever.
it is a long
It's the other
way.
side of the country.
Right.
They talked me into it. I became part of the Fox 5 family. I became, I hope, part of Metro Atlanta and became a face and hopefully delivered the news with every ounce of fairness that I could. I will go to my grave knowing I was a fair reporter, and I really did try every day because I wanted to go to sleep well at night and say, did I give everybody the fairest shot I could as a journalist? And yes, I did. And I will go to my grave with that. But yeah, that's how I got here. And the next thing you know, we're in Atlanta. And if you know anything about California and Georgia, the price of a house there and the price of a house here, let's just say a little house there is a big house here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And we've stayed, and I love Georgia, and it's been very good to us. Yes.
So now it's home. So tell us a little bit more about what you're doing now. I know the auctioneering, also some interest in real estate.
Right. Well, I was going to work one day, and I said to myself, to my wife, I said, I don't know if I can take some bad news today. And it was a tough story. And, any reporter who's been in the trenches long enough will tell you that they've got enough death and destruction to last for years and lifetimes. And I said, I need some good news. And I had already started doing benefit auctions, and that is raising money for nonprofits, schools, foundations, and the like. And I said, the Good News Auctioneer.
Yeah.
So the Good News Auctioneer was born, and that's my tagline now. The Good News Auctioneer, and I raise money for charities, nonprofits, schools, foundations like Smith Gilbert.
Yeah.
We just did Joshua's Wish, which is a it's a nonprofit for children with cancer. Joshua Solomon in the Macon area. Joshua, we miss you dearly. Joshua passed away from a rare brain disorder, a rare brain cancer that afflicts children. And so his parents said his life is not going to be meaningless. It's going to have meaning, and we're going to help others. So they asked me to help, and we did it virtually in front of a camera, and we raised funds. And it's really interesting because we also did this with Connections Homes, High Penn Parish. Connections Homes gets children who have aged out of foster care. What do you do when you're 18 and you're out of foster care? And where are you going to go? What do you know? What do you know at 18? Didn't know anything. So they connect them with loving parents, if you will, foster. They're not real foster parents, but they're Connections Homes. So these great people take them in. As well as a Friend's House in McDonough. We did that. We raised funds. A Friend's House is also a nonprofit, a shelter in McDonough. So, we've got the Bully Ball is coming up, the English Bulldog Rescue Group. That's on tap, as well as some other folks. So,
wow, you're staying busy.
I hope
Very
so.
busy.
I really enjoy doing the fundraising, helping raise funds to make a difference in somebody gets to live a little longer. A dog or a pet is not euthanized because of the efforts that these great nonprofits do. And it isn't me, it's the nonprofit, but I'm a part of their quiver, if you will, of tools to raise funds.
That's wonderful.
It's a good feeling. I really enjoy that.
Well, thanks so much for being here today. I love hearing about all your favorite things to do, and I hope that all of you will update the page and talk about the favorite things that you like to do in Atlanta. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.